Research indicates that over 56% of U.S. workers in their 50s with stable, long-term jobs are forced out of their positions before choosing to retire. Career rejection for workers in their 50s and 60s in the U.S. has reached record high levels, with approximately 6 in 10 workers aged 50 and older experiencing or witnessing age discrimination. Despite the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, ADEA, protecting workers over 40, many face significant barriers in hiring, with 38% of employers identifying 54 as the median age when a candidate is considered too old. And so maybe you gave 20 years to a company, maybe more, maybe less. You climbed the ladder. You hit your numbers. You did everything they told you to do. And then in your 50s, they laid you off. They called it restructuring. So you applied to hundreds of jobs and you waited for the interviews to come. But they never came. You're not retired. You're not unemployed by choice. You're in your 50s with decades of experience that nobody seems to want anymore. And the psychology of being invisible in your own industry at the peak of your career? It destroys you in ways nobody talks about. Let's break down what's really happening. Welcome to Money Archetype, where we decode the hidden psychology behind financial behaviors. Today we're diving into one of the cruelest realities facing Gen X right now. Getting laid off in your 50s, and then discovering that you've suddenly become unhireable. Not because you lack skills, not because you're not qualified, but because the job market has decided you're too expensive, too experienced, and too old. This isn't about your motivation or your attitude. This is about a systemic bias so deep that it's actually rewritten your entire identity. And the psychological damage from this? It's absolutely devastating. Let's explore what happens to your mind when the world tells you you're done at 50. Let's start with what you probably expected when you first got laid off. You got laid off. Yeah, it sucks. But you've got experience 20 years, 25 years, maybe even 30 years in your field. You've managed teams. You've closed deals. You've built systems. You're valuable, right? So you polish up your resume, you update your LinkedIn profile, and you start applying for jobs. And then, nothing happens. Crickets. Ghost after ghost after ghost. At first, you think it's just bad luck. Wrong timing. Maybe the job market is slow right now. But then you start to realize something. You're not even getting to the interview stage. Your applications just disappear into a black hole. Automated rejection emails start piling up in your inbox. And they always say, "We've decided to move forward with other candidates," over and over again. And slowly this truth settles in. They're not rejecting you because you're unqualified. They're rejecting you before they even read your qualifications. Psychologists have a term for this: algorithmic ageism. That's when hiring software filters out candidates based on things like graduation year, years of experience, or salary history, before a human being ever even sees your resume. You're being eliminated by a computer algorithm. That basically equates experienced with expensive and old. There's a study from the National Bureau of Economic Research that found something shocking. Workers over 50 face a 50% longer job search than younger workers with identical qualifications. Identical qualifications. And when they do finally get hired, it's often at significantly lower pay than what they were making before. What this means is that the system isn't just biased against you. It's actually mathematically designed to exclude you. But here's what really breaks you psychologically. You built your entire identity around being competent. You were good at your job. You were respected. You were valuable. And now the market is basically telling you that none of that matters anymore. Your experience, the thing you thought was your greatest asset, the thing you spent decades building, has somehow become a liability. So what happens when you go from employed and respected to unemployed and invisible? Your psychology fractures in devastating ways. First, your self-worth collapses. For decades, your job proved you mattered. You contributed. You earned. You belonged. Now rejection after rejection tells you you're worthless. This is occupational identity loss. When the work you did becomes inseparable from who you are. Lose the job. Lose yourself. Second, you blame yourself constantly. Maybe my resume is bad. Maybe I'm applying wrong. Maybe I should have networked more. You spiral into self-criticism, even though the problem isn't you. It's systemic age discrimination. Psychologists call this internalized failure. You're taking responsibility for outcomes you can't control because it feels less terrifying than accepting you're powerless. Third, you start lying. You remove years of experience from your resume. You leave off your graduation year. You dye your hair, anything to look younger in Zoom interviews. This is age concealment behavior. Desperately trying to pass as younger because you've internalized that being 50 is disqualifying. Fourth, you feel betrayed. By the company that laid you off. By the system that promised hard work pays off. By boomers who retired comfortably while you got discarded. This is systemic distrust. Let me tell you about my friend Corinne. She got laid off from her marketing director role at 52 after 18 years. She applied to over 107 jobs in 1 year. 107. She got 3 interviews. 3. And in each one, she could feel the moment they realized she was too senior. They'd use coded language like, "We're looking for someone who can grow with the company," which is just corporate code for someone younger and cheaper. Corinne told me something that really stuck with me. She said, "I've never felt more worthless in my entire life. I have all this knowledge, all this experience I've built up over decades, and nobody wants it. I feel like I've just been thrown away like garbage, and that's not self-pity talking. That's actually the rational response to completely irrational rejection." Gen Xers who get laid off at 50 tend to move through 4 distinct psychological stages. And recognizing which stage you're currently in actually matters a lot. Stage 1. The optimist. This typically happens in months 1 through 3 after you've been laid off. During this stage, you genuinely believe this unemployment thing is just temporary. You've got skills. You've got a network. You'll land something soon, right? Psychologists call this unrealistic optimism. It's actually your brain's protective mechanism that shields you from despair, and it's healthy at first. It keeps you going. But when reality doesn't end up matching your optimism, the crash when it comes is absolutely brutal. Stage 2. The fighter. This usually happens around months 4 through 8. This is when you double down on everything. More applications. More networking events. You take online classes. You get new certifications. You completely rebrand yourself. You're trying everything you can possibly think of. This is what's called compensatory effort. But here's the problem. The obstacle isn't about effort. The obstacle is age discrimination. And you simply cannot effort your way out of discrimination, no matter how hard you try. Stage 3, the broken. This typically hits around months 9 through 18. Applications have stopped working, interviews aren't coming, you're running out of savings. Real panic starts to set in. This is what psychologists call learned helplessness. A state where you stop trying because trying has never worked. You've tried everything, nothing worked, so why keep trying? Depression almost always follows this stage. And some people, unfortunately, never leave this stage. Stage 4. The reinventor. This stage only happens if you survive the previous 3. You accept the traditional system won't hire you. So you must build something else instead. Maybe consulting, freelancing, or starting a small business. Psychologists call this adaptive reframing, redefining success because the old path is closed off. It's survival mode. Not what you wanted, but what you had to do to keep going. Most people get stuck in stage 3. Reinventing yourself at 50, broke and depressed, isn't a choice. It's a Hail Mary with no guarantee. Here's what makes this situation especially psychologically damaging. You're trapped in what feels like an impossible situation with no way out. Too experienced to get hired. Too broke to retire. Employers say overqualified, corporate code for we can't afford you, or you'll leave soon. You can't afford to retire. You desperately need income and health insurance. Stuck in limbo. Too old for the job market. Too young for Social Security. You're too expensive for your experience, but also too experienced for entry-level positions. When you apply for senior roles, they say you're too expensive. For junior roles, you're overqualified. There's no level where you seem to fit. You've been completely priced out of your own career. Research from AARP found 78% of workers over 50 report age discrimination. But here's the real kicker. Age discrimination is nearly impossible to prove in court. Companies use coded language, culture fit, overqualified, looking for fresh perspectives. All those phrases are completely legal to say, but they're all discriminatory. So you're systematically excluded from employment, but you can't fight it. You can't sue anyone. You can't prove what's happening. You just have to accept it and move on. That sense of complete powerlessness, it destroys people psychologically. So what do you do when the system has decided you're disposable at 50? First, stop internalizing the rejection. You're not unemployable because you're deficient. You're unemployable because the system is rigged. Those are two different truths. One is shame. The other is reality. Choose reality. Second, grieve the career you lost. You earned that respect. You deserve that stability. It was stolen. That grief is real. Honor it. Third, redefine your value outside employment. Your worth isn't determined by whether someone will pay you. You have skills, knowledge, relationships. Maybe the system won't hire you, but that doesn't make you worthless. Fourth, build what the system won't give you. Freelance. Consult. Start small. Create your own opportunities. Fifth, talk about it. Your silence protects the companies that discarded you. Speak up. Name the discrimination. Make noise. If you're Gen X, laid off in your 50s, can't get hired despite decades of experience, hear this. You are not failing. The system failed you. You did everything right. You played by all the rules. They just changed the rules on you without warning. Subscribe to Money Archetype for more psychology. Behind the financial realities nobody wants to admit are happening. Remember this, you're not too old. The system is just too broken to see your value anymore. Thank you for watching.